Donald Trump just signed into law the Lincoln-Riley Act, but he's used her death to score political points. Why do I say that? Back in 2018, a beautiful young girl named Molly Tibbetts, who was attending the University of Iowa, was brutally murdered by an undocumented immigrant. She didn't do anything wrong, an innocent girl, just like Lincoln Riley. An innocent woman who was killed. A brutal murder, horrible. Now, in the days after her murder, Donald Trump did bring up her name. But then after about a week or so, Republicans didn't talk about her death. Donald Trump didn't talk about her death. Why? Well, for starters, because it happened under his watch. But he never took any responsibility for it. He blamed Democrats. They've been talking about Lincoln Riley every day. Okay, be consistent. Why didn't we have the Molly Tibbetts Act? Why didn't he propose something like that? And if the argument is, well, there were too many Democrats, he didn't control the House and the Senate, okay, why didn't he propose that? Why is it that he waits until, tragically, an innocent woman is killed, not under his watch? And why don't we hear about Molly Tibbetts? I think it's a very important question that needs to be answered. I'll tell you why. Because this is about scoring political points and it's not making America safer. If it was, we wouldn't be having nonviolent criminals deported and splitting up families. This isn't about making America safer. It's about appeasing the MAGA base on the far right. It's about politics. Why didn't we have, just answer that question for me. Why didn't we have the Molly Tibbetts Act? Why didn't he propose? He could have proposed something like that. He didn't. If it happens under Donald Trump's watch, it's never his fault. It's somebody else's fault. But if it happens under Joe Biden's tenure, it's all his fault. Let me be very clear. A murder is a murder, regardless of who the president of the United States is. They should all be treated as equally terrible. I don't have a problem with deporting violent criminals. I don't want bad people in this country. Most people agree with me on this one, and they agree with anybody when it comes to this sort of thing. Don't use people who died as political pawns like they did with those 13 soldiers who died in the Afghan withdrawal. They put it all on Joe Biden. Mistakes were made on both sides. Donald Trump had the same withdrawal plan. We know that through John Bolton and others that worked in the Trump administration. The same exact plan. But they blame it all on Joe Biden. They want to blame Joe Biden for Lincoln Riley being brutally murdered. But I don't hear any blame on Donald Trump when Molly Tibbetts was murdered, also by an undocumented immigrant. That is what these right-wingers do. Anything good happens under Donald Trump, he wants to take full credit for, including the great economy that he's taken over. Anything bad happens under Donald Trump, in this case, a murder, an undocumented immigrant murdering an innocent young girl, that must be the Democrats' fault. It's not my fault, even though it happened under my tenure. Listen. Bad people commit horrible crimes in this country. Yes, I don't want to see those bad people in this country. But why didn't we have the Molly Tibbetts Act? Why didn't Donald Trump come up with some sort of bill to propose? I'll tell you why. Because he's only interested when it happens under somebody else's watch, and he won't take any responsibility when it happens under his watch. That is why. And anybody who uses any death to score political points is despicable and falls under the orange orangutans brand of using people's deaths to score political points. If a police officer is killed, like an officer was brutally murdered in New York City under the Joe Biden administration, Donald Trump will attend the wake and hold a press conference moments after the wake. But when you look at all the police officers, and one is too many, by the way, that were killed Under the Trump administration, he did not attend one of those funerals. The same rule applies to Lincoln Riley and Molly Tibbetts, who should never be used to score political points. We should all work together as a country to make sure and do everything we can to make sure and hope that these crimes don't happen in the future and other families don't have to suffer. Make no mistake about it, the Lincoln Riley Act is to score political points, and using her death in vain, as far as I am concerned,